So let's transition to this, and Newbie, we can pick back up with you. I play that game, Spec, Collect, Forget.
Ooh.
I know that all you guys have played it, except for Rob. One day I'm going to get you on the channel. We're going to do that together. But I kind of want to do a modified version for this one. Right. I'm going to show a bunch of books that are going to get hot this year. They're going to get hot, right? And I want to know, as you guys throw out your, say, Forget or Collect. And actually, we're going to just do Forget because it's like, I missed the boat, right? I'm not going to buy this thing. Or it's going to be Spec, like, hey, there's still meat on the bone, right? So let's put Collect aside. We're going to do that. And I really want you to explain, like, because here's what I'm interested in about these books. Is this book right here, starting with Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night 32, are we going to see the same chart a year from now, like we did with Eternals or Special Marvel Edition with this thing? Or is this going to be something that is worth still getting right now? So what do you think, Newbie? Let's start us off. Like, is it going to fall off the cliff after the show? Like, or is this for real? Like, is this for real, or is this the one that everyone wants to flip?
This is like Drew said, this is a terrible buy, but that's the thing, right? I mean, it's out of reach. So for me, if this was my character, and this is coming from an Iron Man guy, you don't want to be saying, you know what, I'll get the first appearance later, because later turns into crazy amounts of money. It's still relatively affordable, even if, I mean, as long as you're not going after like a 9.0, I think you're good. But it depends. I mean, half of me wants to say forget it, but I also know that there's meat on the bone, man. Yeah. So if I want to make a few bucks, I think I would still buy a copy, because I know I'll still be able to make a few bucks on it. But again, I'm not attached to the character. I'll say, you know what, 60-40. I'll still Spec.
Okay. What about you, Rob? Do you feel which way about this book?
I think this is kind of what I talked about earlier. I think you could still jump on the ship, but I think the risk level is a little bit higher here, that the boat may be a little bit further out from port than you realize. But I do think, to Newbie's point, I do think there is some meat left on this. Me personally, I would rather take that $3,000 for a 6.5 and buy a slightly lower grade giant size X-Men #1. I feel like that's like, if you're gonna say here's $3,000, go buy a book with it. This is not the book that I would go buy. But if you're forcing me to pick Spec or Forget, I would pick Spec.
All right, Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm 100% Spec on this one, and partly because, and the way I had to think about it was that similar to Drew, I've had a few copies of this one, and I've sold every one, and I'm going to sell these too. It's just I'm not tied to the character, and that does concern me a little bit, that it's similar to some of the, like you said, like Eternals and Special Marvel Edition 15. Is that, are you going to see a huge glut of them hit the market when that show comes out?
He's a bigger character. I mean, he's not the biggest, but he's definitely bigger than Shang-Chi was. So, like you said, are the collectors going to keep the floor up? What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, no. I'm going to forget this book in the short term. I'm looking at the census numbers right now, and about 1/4 of the total population is rated 9 or above. So I feel like the money it's going to take to get one of those books, you could easily turn into some major golden age book, major bronze age book. I don't think that right now putting that kind of money into this book is the smartest play. Right. That said, 8.0, 8.5, that's where I'm going to be watching when, like we talked about earlier, the show's over and we've got some shiny new thing over here to look at, and Moon Knight kind of takes his turn at the end of the line for a bit. I'm going to be that guy trying to buy the dip when this thing comes down, if I can get it for, let me check my numbers here again. If I get to where I can get that book in an 8.0 for $2,500, I would probably do that.
And it wasn't that long ago that an 8.0 was $2,500.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. A 9.2 was $2,500.
That's what I sold my 9.2 for.
Yeah. There's no way. I'll put it this way: there's no way in hell I'm trading one of my 181s for a Werewolf by Night 32.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, let's do this, because we're gonna lightning round through a few of these books, so we'll just kind of knock them out. Again, another book that's gonna get hot right now. Let's just go down. Start with Newbie again. Morbius. Is Morbius for real? Is this guy for real, or is this guy everyone's flipping this?
I think the only thing that gets this like credibility is, like Drew. We woke up Saturday mornings and we watched the cartoon. He was around. It's popular. But I think the fact that the movie keeps getting pushed back, and I get why. I think people are just like, forget this. This for me is a forget.
What about you, Rob? You a fan of Jared
Forget.
Leto
I think it's just. I just think that where we're at in the timeline is too late. Like if you were going to spec this, you should have spec'd it already.
What about you, Ryan?
Yep. Forget. You can get if you want this book as like a Spider-Man collector, you'll have much better opportunities in the future.
Later on in the year. Drew?
Yep.
Forget it. Fox has made a 2004 comic book movie. We're in 2022, and I don't expect much out of it.
Fair enough. All right, next book here, She-Hulk, #1.
Spec.
She-Hulk. Newbie, what do you think?
I'm saying Spec, something that we've not really seen, right? A female lead, green, all that. We haven't seen it. I think there's going to be a lot of things that come into it, like a Daredevil, like a Hulk. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to attract people who aren't collectors. I think it's going to make the book go. Still a lot of meat on the bone. I'm specking.
Rob, you a She-Hulk fan here?
Not a She-Hulk fan, but I do think there is a little bit of meat left on this one. I'm not sure it's a play that I would make, but I could see the appeal to still spec on this.
Ryan?
I'd say I'm halfway between Spec and Forget, because I think it's one where it's risky. I feel like this is one of the
shows. Is this going to fall off the cliff? Every
I think this is one of the
point.
shows that's going to be may surprise people on the downside, and so then you're going to have some pretty big drops in the price of that book.
Got it.
So if you spec on it, be ready to sell it.
Right. Drew?
I would say spec on it. There's so many of these books, and there's so many in really nice shape because there was this warehouse find a while back, like many years ago. But there are just so many high grade copies of this book out there. If you are going to go after it, be patient with it. Wait for the right deal. Don't just go in and throw money at the first person who has one. I think if this does hit, it'll be okay. You're not going to make a ton of money right now, but if it doesn't hit and you're genuinely interested in the character, want the book, wait it out. There's going to be people dumping these like crazy.
Got it. Oh, well, speaking of that, dumping books, America Chavez, Newbie, is this for real? Do people want this thing, or are people going to flip this?
Man, I think this is a forget. Just thinking of the target audience, younger character. I mean, I know the direction they're going with it, but I don't know if this character can hold her own. I think it's going to be one of those characters that needs a supporting cast. So, and it's a pricey book already. I would forget it.
Yeah. Rob, any thoughts on America Chavez?
Forget at the time the spec on this. Same thing. It's a timeline problem. This should have been spec'd on a while ago. I think you're jumping on a little too late. High risk.
Ryan?
Yeah. I'm sorry. We're all I think on the same page.
Yeah,
this.
I think so.
I think
see
it's
nods.
one where it was a good spec. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
It's pretty pricey, especially that variant.
Yeah. Like if you got it in enough, but this will be one that you can safely assume is going to really drop off after Doctor Strange. Drew, you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, if they can't let Spider-Man run his own movie, there's no way they're going to let America run her own movie. If you could have bought this off a wall raw for $20 a few years ago, you were good. Now, nope, walk away.
Got it. All right. Similarly to that, Jane Foster Thor's going to come out. Is this going to be that book, kind of like we were saying, Newbie, where they're going to let you have it back? Like, are we thinking Natalie Portman's going to be Thor here? Like, what do you think?
I love Natalie Portman. I think this is a forget. I think you'll be able to get it down the road a little bit cheaper. She might be around for a little bit longer than we expect, but definitely forget.
Rob?
I'm going to lean more towards forget on this one too. I just hate chasing this modern stuff like this. Yeah, I think it'd be forget for me.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'm sorry again. Yeah, I mean, even the What If 10, I wouldn't be picking up right now.
Drew?
Rob is my spirit animal.
Yeah.
It's modern. Walk away.
All right.
Yeah.
Well then, can we safely assume? Because I feel like there was murmurs about this, but like again, I want to talk about these books because there's going to be people who watch, and I want them to be aware of like, hey, this Eternals 1 scenario can happen.
Yep.
But got ahead of myself.
Whoa.
Right here, newbie. We talked about Ms. Marvel, right?
You already heard my opinion on this.
Yeah, Ryan, you already had this another Martin book, kind of kid show centric. What do you think about this one?
Listen, she's from my, I guess, somewhat town here in the GTA in Canada. She is Canadian. She's just too young. I like some of the kids that are coming. So like Sam Alexander, Riri, I like those. I'm not really digging this one. This is a forget for me. It's too expensive for something that I personally have a good feeling it's just going to be like slashed in half after the aftermath.
Once you get the show.
Yeah.
Rob, same thing. Modern book.
Yeah, same thing. Forget.
Yeah. Ryan, we heard your opinion earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. And Drew, I gotta assume you're with the crowd here.
This one just blew up too quick. I don't think there was much of a window for it, so I would forget it as well. I think some of these younger characters can be hard to relate to for a lot of the audience, and I don't know that that's going to translate very well into the community.
Especially that, like the 1 in 75, like that. I think that's this
Yeah.
one, the purple cover. That book is like $8,000. It's crazy.
All right, last few books here. You got a little preview earlier. Tomb of Dracula. I think Blade is going to show up in a thing this year. That's what I think. But what do you think, newbie? Is Blade for real? Like, is Blade the Shang-Chi we're gonna flip him, or is he a real fans character? Everyone's going to be obsessed.
I would spec on this before it's too late. Even the low grades of this, I would probably try to get. You're seeing an influx on people buying Blade 1. I got that. It's back there somewhere. I think Blade is a character you don't want to miss on. If Shang-Chi was successful, the vampire killer, the nostalgia of everything that he had. Yeah, this is still meat on the bones. Go get it.
What about you, Rob? Are you a Wesley Snipes fan from back in the day?
I love that movie. The first one is so good. I would spec on this just because this is, once again, this is a more classic book. If this blows up in your face, I think you're still okay holding this long term, and you might still be okay. Maybe you don't make a huge profit on it, but maybe you don't lose your ass on it like you could some of this modern stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Ryan, I heard you talking about picking up Blade, so I'm assuming maybe spec for you.
Well, I would put Blade even in the collect category, because, I have my family has a long tie to Blade because you're a vampire? At Christmas. We went, and my brothers and I, we were going to go see Blade 2. This is whenever that came out, like a long time ago. And I remember my stepmom and my dad, they're like, oh, this will be a fun family movie. Let's go. And so we all went together. And then when the vampire's face opened up and started eating people and stuff, it was. And so for like the next number of years, it was just a joke that somebody gave Blade 2 as a gift to different family members throughout the year. So, I'm a big fan of Blade. I think it's a fun book. I saw someone comment that they think it's a little late to spec. It's probably a little late, but I would still think it's a decent collect. If you can find it at, maybe a little below fair market value, something like that, I think it's still well worth picking up.
Yeah. Drew?
I am actively specting on this. I've got a few of them right now that I'm just sitting on. I think this is a good buy in low grade. Just when this character hits, I have absolute faith that Blade's going to be a hit in the MCU. If you could get 3 movies on your own before anybody knew anything about comic book movies, you're going to be successful in an established universe. But if you don't have the money to chase this one, 13 is a great alternative.
Yeah,
so lean in on Blade, everybody.
All right. Last couple here. Newbie, Avengers 48.
Oh, Ryan. I can see
Don't be
smiling.
biased. Don't be biased. Kit Harington playing. Is this character for real? Is this character for real? Or is this the flip like Eternals?
I think this character is for real, and here's why. We got him throughout this whole movie and he did not do anything Black Knight. It was at the end.
Yeah.
And for those reasons, he signed on for a few more projects. He is a big name. He's going to be big. This book is going to explode once he's in a costume or fighting somebody. I bought my 7.0 for $600 Canadian. I mean, 7.0s now are like $1,200, $1,300. I'm holding. I could sell, but I'm holding because I know that it's just going to be better. I think it's Spec for sure.
Do you think but like, does this run the Shang-Chi risk of like when we get him and then it just tanks, or what do you
no,
think?
because, well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because he's not an
no, it's just
A-lister,
good.
right?
Good, but it's good to clarify. I mean, it's good to clarify. I mean, yeah, you're gonna spec if you can sell, but yeah. What about you, Rob? What do you think about this? Any thoughts on Black Knight?
It's Spec for sure. I mean, you get Kit Harington with a sword in his hand. That alone is enough to drive a market. Like, I mean, just based off the Game of Thrones nostalgia play.
Yeah. Ryan, you love this book. This is you're selling all your Golden Age stuff to get 9.8s of this.
This one I feel similar to this as I do about Avengers 8 with Kang. It's like it's a character that most people didn't really care about before, and you see prices spike with it, and they're not going to care about when he's gone. I mean, I'd say it's a book that you can 100% buy and sell over the next X number of years as they have properties with him and all that kind of stuff, and ride whatever wave that is that that you see with these dips and peaks, but not a so I'd say Spec, but not a collect. And I wouldn't forget it because it's down quite a bit right now. You could definitely pick up copies right now, and I'm sure if he has, like they've been saying, he's going to have his own movie or something like that. I mean, you'll see price increases again with this one.
Drew?
I agree with what Ryan said. Short term, next couple of years, I think there's money to be made there. I don't like it long term. I would take that money and to put it into a more established character, because as soon as that contract is up, this book's going to fall away. And if you really just want to see Kit Harington swing a sword and ride a black horse, watch Game of Thrones.
It's a hot potato situation.
All right. And the last book here, and based on your guys' answers, I feel like I know what you guys are going to say here, but we got to talk about, the next couple books right here. So we got to talk about this one right here. This is Shuri. Maybe Shuri's going to be the next Black Panther, her first appearance. Newbie.
Pass.
Shuri, pass.
One word.
Okay. Pass. Rob, are you a fan of Letitia Wright taking over Black Panther later in the year?
I mean, I think it's going to be a cool movie. I think it could be interesting, but I'm going to forget on this one. I would rather, because I literally just bought one. Speaking of like looking at things that other people aren't, everyone's looking at Spider-Man and X-Men. I just bought an FF52 not that long ago, like as in a couple weeks ago.
I want that
because everyone's looking at everything else. No one's talking about that. And yeah, we may not get a proper Black Panther portrayal again in an MCU movie, but that's still a blue chip key in my mind that has come down quite a bit.
Yeah.
I got a 6.5 white pages back there. I just got it in the mail literally 3 days ago.
It's a great book.
I would, for the purposes of this, forget on this, even though I do think it could be an interesting movie. And I did like that character in the first Black Panther movie. But once again, for me, comic books are not a modern play. I have that itch in sports cards. I come to this side more for safety and security.
Right. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar in the moderns. It's not necessarily something I would buy. Now, have they replaced the actress? I don't know what's going on recently.
She got hurt pretty bad on set.
Yeah.
Well, she got hurt, but then because
she's against
to get vaccinated, she can't actually come back and film.
She got canceled, but as far as I know, like I think she's still it. But let's assume that she's still gonna,
because that's my big fear with this is that they basically write her out. And I think that is it's either a very real possibility, or they're going to have to recast. And so I think it's a very risky book at this moment.
Drew?
Yeah, there's a lot of volatility just with that whole situation. We're going to have Killmonger back and he take over. Is she going to be replaced? There's just a lot of question marks on this one. I think if you're digging and find it, underpriced or like priced a couple years ago, somewhere between $3 to $10, I think you're safe to pick it up. But if you're looking at paying market value as it stands right now, I'd forget it.
Got it. Okay. And now the real last book. I think, again, you guys, Modern Book's going to give similar answers here. But Newbie, let's hear this from you. Obviously, the next Iron Man, you're going to be a fan of Riri Williams. Like, what's your thought on this book? Like, is this going to be the next UF Ultimate Fallout 4?
No, because
the next day of 15.
Man, I think this is. I mean, as much as it's got meat on the bone, I just don't think it's gonna. And this is coming from an Iron Man fan, okay? So this hurts me to say. I just don't think it's gonna resonate properly. I do like Riri. I have a lot of the 1 in 25, 1 in 50s that are really hard to get. That I'm waiting for her to come, but unfortunately, I just don't think like the aftermath is going to go very well. So if you really want this book, I think you can get it later.
Well, let me ask you this though. To that point, she's coming out. She's going to be in Black Panther too later in this year, and then she's going to have her own show the year after. You selling in Black Panther, or are you going to wait till?
I think a lot of people are going to just jump on it depending on what happens in Black Panther, right? Like if I think she's going to have like a really great scene similar to like Yelena and Kate Bishop in Hawkeye. Like I think they're going to have a relationship like that, a little bit of comedy maybe, and it's going to get people like jumping on it. And then I think Ironheart, it might, I mean, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to love it. I just think that you might be able to get this cheaper down the road. And if it's just a year, you have to wait, why not save that money? I think 9/8 go for $3,000, somewhere around there, maybe 2, something like that, Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah.
So, for those reasons, like Rob said, I'd rather put that money right now in a lower grade, like Giant Size X-Men.
Yeah. Rob, you doing the same move here with the moderns?
Yeah, I'm typically pretty anti-modern, and that would be my general stance with that. That being said, I do think there's an interesting case that if this character actually truly hits, there's a situation where we're looking back and being like, oh man, we were all so stupid for saying, you know what I mean? Like if this actually really hits and goes next level, I can see it being a pretty good book, but you're running the risk of audience reception. Do they handle her correctly? A whole bunch of X factors that we have no control over.
Right.
So that would be my only lean for not wanting the spec on this. So I would lean towards Forget. And also I don't like that the cost of entry is so high.
Yeah.
Right.
Given where the price point's already at, to me, that's the scariest part. Because like Newbie said, you could just take that money and you can put that into way better, safer things, in my opinion. I mean, I would rather, for this same price, I would rather just buy an Ultimate Fallout 4 if you wanted a spec on modern.
Yeah.
Right. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, if it's not a book I'm personally going to buy, I'm not going to recommend somebody else to buy it. And it's it's not something I'm personally going to pick up. I could see potential with it, but yeah, it's expensive. And with moderns, I like to go for 9/8. I don't think, I know you can get like, we didn't talk about that too much on that 9/8 slide. I know 9/6s, 9/4s, that kind of thing. Like they will often move similar percentages to the 9/8. So they are options. Often the only like little bit of trouble with it is that I think the demand is much higher for the 9/8. So you may have a little more trouble selling it. That's the only real downside there.
Right.
But so yeah, maybe if you really want it, maybe try for a lower grade, just so then you're not risking maybe quite as much money on it. Cause I mean, this one and the variant are I think, cause this is the one that has it's that like bluish type variant with the red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's I think that's
so
like an
expensive.
$8,000 book in a 9/8 Canadian. Yeah.
You and your Canadian money.
Yeah. Sorry guys. That's the only way I know it, guys. I'm sorry.
What is that? Like a $350?
Drew, so what about you to round it out? Are you thinking that this book after Black Panther crashes or whatever you want to say, falls off the cliff? Or do you think the floor holds until you get Riri Williams' 2023 show?
I say forget this, because this is a book people have stacked, like piles of the A cover, piles of the variant. It got so hot so quick. It was one of those main books that came out right as speculation on new releases really just went crazy. However many years ago that was, I don't know. I'm old, time blurs together. I think once she shows up, wherever she shows up, first Black Panther 2, I guess the market is just going to be swimming with these things. So if it's a book you want, do what Ryan said, pick up, 9/0, 8/5, something like that, just to check the box. But this thing is going to be everywhere.